It's something we're not used to hearing. But when we hear it, whether we accept it at this moment or engage it at this moment or not, we remain. We remain and we listen and we contemplate and we think, because deep down inside, we feel that it resonates with something. We feel that it is true, that it does make sense. Because if I was to say to you something very negative, most people would get up and leave. But when we say things of this kind of nature to people, as our body starts to deteriorate, the unhappiness increases. It definitely increases. So what happens is, when we accept the Dharma path, we say renounce. Renounce actually refers to sovereignty, which is extremely conservative. Very, very, one of the most stalwart conservative lamas I've ever met. So therefore, it's not a contradiction, it's a skillful means. Skillful means. So therefore, how much we are ready to give up. And the word give up is very negative. The word give up is negative. Give up actually means you lose something. And when you say you lose something, it's also very negative, because losing something in English has a connotation of you have something and you don't have it anymore. So when we even use the wrong words, because we are attached to words, then we also get caught up in the words that we are attached to. Therefore, when we say give up, it's a very negative connotation. When we say renounce, it's a different connotation also. Actually, renounce means to give up. But to give up and renounce doesn't mean to give up happiness. It means to give up the methods that bring you to unhappiness. So if you're presented with the methods that give you happiness, and you say, oh, I can't accept it, or I can't do it, or I can't engage in it, actually you're not giving up. What happens is that the methods that we have are not methods that are inherently positive or inherently brings us to a happy state of mind. And hence, daily we feel happy, we feel unhappy, we feel disturbed, we feel not disturbed. And as time goes on, as sickness catches on, as age goes on, as our body starts to deteriorate, the unhappiness increases. It definitely increases. So what happens is, when we accept the Dharma path, we say renounce. Renounce actually refers to the methods that bring unhappiness to ourselves and the people around us. So if we say the word give up, if we say the word renounce, like here, gave up his monk vows. If we say the word renounce, or we say the word give up, it's actually, to ordinary people, they'll think, oh yeah, I have to give up. I have to give up something. I have to give up something to gain something. I have to give up something to be spiritual. I have to give up something to adopt a path. That's wrong view. That's totally wrong view. Why is that wrong view? What we are not ready for is not Dharma, or giving up or not giving up. What we're not ready for is for our ego to be destroyed. As long as our ego is not destroyed, what is ego? There's many definitions, but let me give you a simple one. Simple definition of ego is the mind that cherishes oneself more than others. When the mind that cherishes oneself more than others, the ego is very strong. Every action that we do, we feed it. When we feed the ego, when we feed this mind through lack of awareness for others, through not carrying out responsibility, through not keeping promises, through not keeping commitments, or not putting in effort, or giving up in another sense, meaning not able to have patience enough to go through difficulties, that's giving up, that's a different type of giving up. When we do those actions, what happens is, we can explain it away to the people around us and to our friends and all that, and they're probably at our level, so they'll accept and understand. But the truth of the matter is, we actually feed the ego even more. So when we feed the ego very much and more, the very actions, the very reason we cannot give up becomes the very reason for us to suffer even more. And create the karmic circumstances for other people around us to suffer even more. So therefore, that concept is not very hard to understand. It is not very hard to understand. It is something that we are not used to hearing. It's something we're not used to hearing. But when we hear it, whether we accept it at this moment or engage it at this moment or not, we remain. We remain and we listen and we contemplate and we think, because deep down inside, we feel that it resonates with something. We feel that it is true, that it does make sense. Because if I was to say to you something very negative, most people would get up and leave. But when we say things of this kind of nature to people, they don't get up and leave. They may or may not accept at that moment, but something inside resonates with them and say, wait, that makes sense. And that's what keeps us in the Dharma. That's what keeps us in spiritual practice. That's what keeps us in pushing ourselves towards spiritual practice, because these words resonate. And it also matches what we have done with our lives. What we have done. Not being aware is a facet of the self-cherishing mind. People, whatever they do, if you think about it, whatever they do, the very basis of anyone doing any action, from going to the toilet, from taking a nap, from getting dressed, from going out, from conversation with associating with friends, whatever action that they do is to bring themselves some kind of happiness or some kind of relief. That is the ultimate motivation. From the smallest ant on the ground, who create anthills, to the supposedly the highest form of intelligence, ourselves. Every action we do, we don't need to think about it, we don't need to generate it. I want happiness for myself. I want something for myself. I want to gain something for myself. That is the basic, fundamental, automatic thought that we have. What happens is, if we meditate or if we focus and we think about that, it doesn't bring us happiness, what we've been doing. And we may call it diverse or different or hobbies or passions, or we can label it anything we want. It's just a label. Label means that it itself doesn't exist on its own from its own side. Exists from itself from its own side doesn't mean the action doesn't exist. It means the reason for the action and the result of the action doesn't exist. So therefore, that action is empty of existence. Please listen very carefully. When we want to steal from someone, the very motivation of stealing from someone is to gain some kind of happiness. But that stealing from someone is empty of existence. Why? It's empty of existence because the reason for it will not bear fruit. The very reason you engage in that action will not bear fruit. Meaning, to have peace, to have happiness, to have wealth, to have respect. So if we cannot get the result of that action, and we engage in that action, in Buddhism, on this level we call it empty of its existence. So please listen carefully. Empty of its existence doesn't mean that the action doesn't exist. It doesn't mean the person or the doer or the receiver or the recipient doesn't exist. It means that the motivation for the action and the reason for the action and the outcome, that's the secret. The outcome we want for the action is empty of existence. Why? Because when the method is incorrect, the result cannot arise. So therefore, when we engage in spiritual practice, it is hard. It is difficult. The harder it is, the more difficult it is, shows us how strong our ego is. It shows us how incredibly strong our selfish mind is. However strong our selfish mind is how hard spiritual practice will be. Why is that? Because you're going against your normal habituations for a long, long time. So people will find spiritual practice very difficult. If people even listen to spiritual practice, it's very difficult to listen or focus or stay awake. It shows you that you're going against your brain. There are many people, if you check it out, if you feel tired during a Dharma talk, and you find it difficult for 1 or 2 hours, but if you put yourself in another situation, whatever situation you're in for 1 or 2 hours, if you listen, you find it difficult, then it's consistent. But if you find some situations, it's very easy, and some situations very different, it's purely habituation. It's not good or bad or evil or not. Purely habituation. So in that way, we can track our mind. In that way, we can track the way our mind forces us to become its slave. So therefore, if we find it very difficult to read Dharma books, but we find it very easy to read fashion magazines, for example, very easy to flip through it, very easy to look through it, and we're intensely reading it, if we find that reading is reading, words is words, meaning is meaning, why is one meaning difficult and the other meaning not difficult? So that's how we can check our mind. To say, oh, we don't have time to read, or we can't read, or I'm not really a reader, or I'm not able to read. We have to check if our mind is consistent. Is consistent or not. So if our mind's consistent in all forms of reading, and maybe we're even illiterate, that's a different story, but most likely it's not the case. So the important thing is this is if we come across a difficulty, make it simple. It is difficult because we have not pushed ourselves towards that direction. If we don't push ourselves toward that direction, we may be losing out something very great. In the sense of spiritual practice. Some people can go through tremendous spiritual hardships and difficulties. Tremendous throughout their lives. One obstacle after another, one suffering after another, one letdown, one disillusionment after another. Yet they don't ever stop practicing. But for them, for worldly things, maybe if they try business, or maybe they try cooking, or maybe they try fishing, and they're not successful after a few times, they give up. Why do they give up? Because their habituation is not towards that. Some people, when it's toward Dharma practice, they give up very easy. But towards fishing or entertainment or singing or laying around or having a good time, they don't give up easy. Why don't they give up easy? Because that's a clear indication of the state of their mind. Again, what I want you to get out of the framework is it's criticism. It's not, I'm giving you a guideline. I'm giving you a guideline to check. It may seem like criticism to some people who's guilty, self-guilty of the action, so they feel uncomfortable, but it's not criticism from me. Why? It's presentation of information. Presentation of incredible information that we can use as a guideline for our lives, for our relationship, for what we want to accomplish, and for the people around us. Therefore, if we always find something difficult, and I'm talking about, in this case, spiritual practice, then that can be very dangerous for us. Why? The mind can make many types of excuses, justifications, covers, and fears to not engage in spiritual practice. Not engage. Or while we're engaging, it's not sincere and real. And then our mind is distracted. And we make our time up by substituting with other things that make the time go away. So the important factor here is we must examine our minds. We must confront our minds. We must face our minds. If we don't face our minds, the people we feel secure around will one day be gone. That is for sure. That is definitely for sure. The people we feel secure around will one day be gone. Or we be gone before them. if we don't confront our minds, the very opportunity we have in front of us at this time, health, can be gone. The very opportunity we have in front of us, such as a Dharma center, can be gone. Dharma centers have closed. Great monasteries have been destroyed. Great teachers die. Great masters get killed. So when we have the great opportunity in front of us and we don't engage in it, what we need to do is, what I was told by my teacher was, to in fact meditate and contemplate, truly contemplate and meditate on the impermanence of everything around us. Whatever we are attached to, whatever we want to escape to, whatever we want to hold on to, whatever it is, we have to concentrate on its impermanence. Why? Because it's the truth. Impermanence is a truth that cannot be taken away by any philosophy, any religion, or anyone. You see, there are philosophical points or methods, that's a better word, philosophical methods that different religions can debate on with each other. And the debate goes on and on. But there are ultimate truths, such as impermanence, that no one can debate on, that no one can take away, and no one can demean, or no one can say it doesn't exist. So those are the universal truths that Buddhism likes to focus on. It's not debatable. You want to debate, you can, but it will be only one conclusion. If you talk about meditating on Buddha or Jesus, there are many debates, and that debate has no conclusion. It's either or, no problem. But when you talk about impermanence, to apply to making ourselves feel an urgency not to lose a chance, that one's not debatable. Why? Why is it not debatable? Because it's a truth that encompasses all cultures, all people, all races, and time. So we meditate, if we meditate on impermanence, that the person we're very attached to, because usually in life it's people, it's money, it's entertainment, those are the things that we're usually attached to. Most of us. Attached meaning what? Let me give you the definition of attached. Attached meaning we feel that this person, this situation, this activity will secure us with what we want in life. That if we have this person, if we have this activity, if we have this action, we are secure. Hence, when we feel that, think about it, when we feel that and we engage in it, we're still insecure. The person we're with might be taken away by someone else. The person we're with, the mood might change, the thoughts might change. Our karma with that person might end. We ourselves may not like that person anymore. Or the person might be separated by sickness or death or other reasons. And so when any of these reasons arise for us to be separated from that person, we suffer tremendously. Why do we suffer tremendously? Because we've held on to this person as security and permanence. And that's where the suffering comes. So people blame the person. It's not the person. It's our projection of the person. We have to think about that. So therefore, if we're attached to some activity, such as frivolous entertainment, and we're very attached to it. Attached again means what? Thinking that this activity brings us secured, constant, non-stop happiness. If we're attached to it, that's the definition of attachment. So don't take it as a negative connotation. Take it as just an explanation of how the mind works. When we are attached to frivolous entertainment, that moment we feel peace, but we find that we gain less and less and less and less and less peace, less and less security, less and less respect, less and less achievements. Why is that? Because frivolous entertainment take us away from achieving our work, achieving our assignment, achieving our goals, achieving our spiritual practice, achieving our manifestation of love for people we love, for example, our parents, our partners. It takes away from it. Why? If we engage our time in frivolous entertainment again and again, it is not negative in itself, but its repercussions are negative. Why? It takes away from something else that we can accomplish, that would gain us respect, that would gain us love, that would gain us friends, that would gain us, inverted commas, samsaric security of some level. Some level. So when we are privileged, just very simple, if we're supposed to do an assignment, or we're supposed to do something for work, and we don't, and we're sitting there staring at the sky, we're imagining things, we're watching TV, we're surfing on the net, we're running around with friends, we're gossiping, we're doing these kind of things. The action we're supposed to do, we don't get to do, and when we actually get to it, we do it very fast, haphazardly, as quick as possible, or we altogether forget. So what's the repercussions of that is very clear. Our bosses and friends and our co-workers will not respect us. We lose respect for ourselves. It's only so much we can hide. It's only for so long we can hide. That is just an example that we can apply to everything. So when we're attached to frivolous activity, watching videos and surfing the net and running around and talking, gossiping, going out to eat and all that, those itself is not negative. Those itself are actually neutral. What makes it positive or negative is the results that it bears for us and others. So what makes it negative is the result that it bears for ourselves and others. So if people ask, how do I know if that's good or bad? Look at the results. Look at the results. That's very, very simple. How do we know, example in this one it says, how do we know if the Lama's action is good or bad? Look at his senior students. Look at their mind. Look at their level. Look how they think. Look how hard they work. Look how devoted they are. Look at how they change their lives and other people's lives. So how do we know if a Lama's action is good or bad? If we're confused, we look at the senior students. We look at the results of it. We look at how other monks react, or other teachers react. We see how the students react. We see those actions as a result of whether our Lama's actions are good or bad. So I'll get back to that because that talks about unconventional methods in number 2, as Joe has put here. So the important thing is if we use any labels to not engage in Dharma practice, if we use any labels to not engage in Dharma practice, then let's make it very simple and let's make it very direct. The people we love, we actually don't love. The people that we love, we actually don't love. And that stems back from Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charavatara. If we don't engage in spiritual practice, we don't love the people we love, although we say we love. Why? There is ultimate love, and there is ego love. Ego love is, this person gives me security, this person helps to distract me, this person helps me to make my time go away easier, this person helps me to relieve my stress. It's always about me, 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 me. So what happens, in fact, with this person, we create even more negative karma. We create even more negative affinity. So that's why certain people we meet in life after life after life after life after life. Even in certain situations, if our relationship is very pleasant with a person, if we look at it on a very superficial level, yes, it's a result of good karma. But think now. For a lot of you, we can go to the next level now. If we think about it carefully, a very pleasant relationship is very dangerous. Why? It takes us away from spiritual practice. If that's not the case, Buddha would not have become a monk. We think about that. So if we have a very pleasant relationship, the key is, of course we can stay in the relationship, but we must stay in the relationship with awareness of this truth. So that we will engage in spiritual practice to ultimately help the person and ourselves. And that's why I always stress, if you love your mother, if you love your father, if you love your friends, and you love the people who are kind to you, you will engage in spiritual practice. That's why I told many people for many years. A lot of people look at it on a very superficial level. Oh, I make offerings to my mother, I dedicate for my mother, I help my mother. It's very good, but that's very superficial, and that doesn't go very far. If you really love your mother, if you really love your father, if we really love our teachers and our friends and our Dharma brothers and sisters and people all around us, if we really love them, do you know how you love them? By doing what Shakyamuni did. Confronting your attachments. Why did Shakyamuni leave the palace? Why did Shakyamuni at such a young age give up his beauty, his hair, his clothes, his ornaments, his kingdom, his life, his position, his fabulous wife, his beautiful son, his dancing girls, his mother, his father, his food, his palace, his servants, the walls, the riches? Why did he give all that up? Openly, directly, for a normal mind, it looks like he gave up. He didn't give up. He didn't give up at all. In fact, he loved them so much, he went to do something about his love. Just like Jesus Christ. Just like Jesus. Lord Buddha loved so much. And how did he love? He developed that level of bodhisattva, where it was his last lifetime. It was absolutely his last lifetime that he will be in samsara, uncontrolled. Supposedly. Alright, uncontrolled. Let me use that. Because he loved his mother and father, and all the mother and fathers he's had in his previous lives. And his wife, his sons, his servants, his attendants. He loved everyone so much. He cut his attachments. And with so much obstacles from his parents, and his obstacles weren't just 1 year or 2 years. It was from the time of his birth they protected him and avoided him from seeing the truth and the sufferings and the difficulties and of human existence. Old age and sickness and separation. They separated him from that. They avoided him from seeing them. They did everything they can to stop that. But because his imprints were so strong, with so much obstacles, if it was in our case, imagine. Just imagine. Imagine Lim Dak Ming. You surround him with 900 beautiful dancing girls, voluptuous, and then we say, go be a monk. Maybe it would be very hard. Very, very hard.